Hi, this is Kevin Deal, and today you know what? I got to look at this thing for a minute. Today we're going to talk about the Pathos Legacy. And I've been trying to make this video for a while because, the thing that really blows me away is the way that it sounds. This has been an experience I've never had in my life. And you guys know I'm using, in my reference system at home, I'm using adrenalines. And maybe it's just that in the store when we hook these up, God dang it. Because I think that kind of what this is adrenalines and synapse and a synapse rather, in a box maybe. But I got to find out because they've done some things in this that might be 100% unique to this amp. I do not know. All I know is it is magic. And I want you... If you don't have a Pathos dealer, I really think that every dealer needs to experience this brand. And I mean this. I want every town is better off with a hi-fi store and a record store. And I want you to make sure to support your local dealer. If they don't have Pathos, they should. If they don't know where to go, and I'll even put the link, because this is very special, and we're going to put the link for the distributor contact into the description, and you can tell them, hey, I want to hear this, or I want to hear this, a Pathos product. I want to see it because it's a different brand. This is an Italian brand, and when I say Italian brand, I mean it is made in Italy. Some companies, they don't do that. They say, oh, made here, made there, but what it means is they buy all the stuff from other suppliers already done, everything pre-mounted, and then they just put a few screws together. And then they go, made in America, or made in Austria. Well, I guess it wouldn't sound like that, would it? Made in Austria. How do I do an Austrian accent? Oh, well, you got what I'm saying. There's enough of that stuff going around in this business. And one of these days I'm going to write a book and I'm going to snitch everybody off. And that doesn't even make it bad. It's just that sometimes people get extra brownie points for it. And then made in America is maybe not always the greatest thing in electronics. You got to look inside the box, right? But when you look inside a Pathos, what you're going to see is that it has got just all the best stuff in it. An amazing technology. Their claim to fame is something called InPol. Pathos still remains. They started in Vicenza, Italy. Gaetano, who's the owner of the company, he hung out with Franco Serblin. Franco Serblin was the guy that started Sonus Faber, and they hung out together. They worked on cars together, and Gaetano and his two partners were making electronics, and Franco Serblin was making speakers. And that's how that went down. And they invented a design that's called InPol. And InPol is a Class A design where you have a tube that goes through, in essence, they like to call it a spring that creates like a pentagram, a blown up picture. By using MOSFETs, you are indeed listening to a tube that is going through these big inductors and then through MOSFETs, and it is unlike anything I've ever heard in my life, and I love it. But when we hook this thing up to a pair of K-horns, everyone's jaw dropped, period. End of story. It's 100 watts per channel. It's $50,000. I call it the $50,000 bargain because I like to annoy people and have them go, what are you talking about? But the thing is, when you look at the fact that there's only 2 of these that we've received thus far, that it takes them a long time to build it, and that the fact is that this is not some empty box. There's plenty of $50,000 products in this industry that have got the greatest meters on planet Earth. But when you look inside the box, not so much, right? It's great to have a product that looks great. It's nice if it looks like a watch, a Breguet watch, or this, whatever. What I want to know is, tell me about the parts and engineering. And this thing is so difficult for me to wrap my brain around, I decided to bring Josh in, and Josh is our service manager. He also does all kinds of support help with people, and he's just the greatest guy ever because really, he's the kind of guy that can design stuff, not just fix stuff. And he's a real asset to our company, and not just that, one of the best people I've ever met. And I'm very thankful for that. So I'm going to bring him on right now, and we're going to go through this a little bit to just show you what should be inside an amplifier that costs $50,000. Welcome, Josh. We're recording, and he just used a little clapper thing, like Mark, that thing that they use when they film. And my ear is still ringing. My ear is not made out of beryllium, because if it was made out of beryllium, it would have stopped ringing by now. My ears must be made of a titanium or aluminum. They continue to ring. So here we are with Josh. Josh is our service manager, but I mean, he is just such a rock star at our company because he loves this stuff as much as we do, right? I mean, and I cannot think of a better person to have on our team because he loves to get into the weeds like I do. He is so much beyond he is my mentor. I'll put it that way. And so this amplifier has been a challenge, has it not, Josh?
It has, but it's so worth it. It's such a special product, and there's been a lot to dig through, but it's a wonderful product.
A lot to dig through. And the thing is, I mean, nothing has sounded like it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the front, and then the weird stuff gets in the back. Not weird stuff, the crazy stuff, right? So here, let me just reverse this, and we're going to kind of go through it. Now, the front end is a pair of 12AX7s or ECC 803S for voltage gain, and then some 6H30s. And that was actually, I think they said that they had taken that from the Adrenaline design, the monoblock amps that I have in my system at home, right, Josh?
Yeah, correct.
And you had noted something about how they had done the filaments with an elevated what?
They do an elevated DC filament supply. What's also shocking about it, a lot of times, the name of the game in hi-fi stuff is separation. That's what monoblocks are about, separate preamps, and it's all about separating things out. This amplifier, even though everything's in one box, I mean, it's about as separated out as it can be. So you mentioned the filaments. That front small toroidal transformer has multiple filament windings to isolate stage by stage by stage. I mean, everything as much as they possibly could is isolated out. It's so impressive.
And now there's one of these transformers for each side. This thing is dual mono from front to back, right?
The entire thing, nothing is shared. Everything is completely isolated out. It shares a power plug where the cord goes into the back of the amp, and that's it.
Yeah. Now, I noted something about the volume control. They are underneath boxes. I can't get to it here, but they talked about some type of a military design. What did they say now? Let's see. Volume relays, resistive attenuator cells. So they're using Vishay-Dale resistors, and it's got, I think, 100 and some odd steps, half dB steps. So there's a great degree of separation, but it's the way they shielded it. And then they also wanted to get rid of the tick-tock that you get between steps, right?
Yeah, and I mean have you ever heard of a volume step ladder for volume attenuation with 100 steps before?
It's more than 100 steps. It's 100 and some odd. I have to go look it up.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And it's a lot of parts.
It is to get you exactly what you want as far as volume attenuation goes.
Because they're discrete parts. It's not being done with a little chip, right?
Yeah, they're using actual Vishay-Dale resistors.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so that's really, really something. And then, so that's the power transformer. There's a ton of tricks in the front end, but we can't actually get to it. Now you're going to notice all of these capacitors here. Now it said there's 66,000 microfarads of filter capacitance per channel, right? And the benefit of that is what?
The least amount of ripple current possible. And I think that those numbers may even just be for what they call the reservoir capacitance for the very initial stage capacitor.
Okay. Got it.
It's a lot. They did not skimp as far as filter capacitance goes.
Now, the power supply has a big inductor filter, and I did not understand what part was doing what because this red thing is an inductor also, right?
Yeah, correct.
But then this is a big choke, I guess, technically, right? Or no?
It
Oh,
is. It is, and they're somewhat of the same thing, but the way they're using them are different. This one that you're pointing at currently is in the power supply, and it's huge. It costs much more money to make a choke that big, but they spared no expense in doing it on this amplifier.
right. And like if you heard me talking about the power supplies, that is an example. Prima Luna uses that pi circuit that we talked about, right? Which is so cool because nobody does that. They just don't do it. And they have a capacitor, then a choke, then a capacitor. And that's a great way to get rid of ripple, correct?
Yeah, and
And
you can get away with using what they call like a CRC filter, where they can just put a resistive load, and the choke or the resistor, regardless, is to separate out these stages. The choke is a much more expensive way to do it, but it's a better way to do it. It's a lower resistive load, and it helps oppose any type of change in current in the power supply, and it keeps everything linear and stable.
so the bottom line is when the amplifier is under duress, the power supply is not going to change. And to do something like this is crazy expensive, isn't it?
It is. It's the most expensive way you can do the input capacitance on a power supply is
Yeah.
to put that inductor there. And then also to put that huge, I mean, when the microfarads go up, the cost goes up. And Pathos, they don't skimp on that reservoir capacitor. It's large, and those guys have spent so much time listening and tweaking their products. They put exactly what needs to be in the amplifier.
Yeah.
And with the capacitance, it affects bass response and all different kinds of things. It's subtle, but it matters overall. And they make sure everything is in line in the details.
Well, let's talk about details. Let's talk about this. Instead of having a printed circuit board or going to wire, what did they do here? Because you've never seen anybody do this, have you? Ever?
Yeah, you'll see sometimes, and without naming any other manufacturers, you'll see sometimes companies that have hand wired amps and stuff like that. They'll use what's essentially like a nice piece of copper wire that's like that you might even find like at a Romex or something like that. They're using a very, very high grade copper bar as the grounding bus. And these guys have spent this much time actually going through and listening to this stuff, and it matters to them.
Right.
And when Kevin and I were asking them about it, it has to do with the resistance, the power supply. It's very thoughtful. Everything on this amplifier has been really, really thought out from beginning to end.
It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. So imagine this. They told me that Gaetano said, I don't want to even lose 1% of the signal anywhere. And this is what they did, just one of the things, one of many things that they did to assure that. Oh my God. All right, now, so we know that this is a great big choke, right? Now, this is, again, another inductor, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's one on each side. It is massive, again, huge. And there's so many things that I can't even show you guys because I can't get a camera in here. It's layer after layer after layer. I mean, it is unbelievable. And so this inductor is for the InPol circuit, correct? Or the double InPol circuit?
Absolutely. And with the impulse circuit, is somewhat confusing to a lot of people. But if you break it down, basically it is Class A. They mention that in the documentation. It's Class A, but it's Class A done in a very special way. And what you need to understand about Class A is it basically means the output devices, they don't ever shut off on their duty cycle. They're on 100% of the time. And there's a very magic character to that sound. InPol, they squeeze a ton of power out of the output devices and stuff, and through what they call a pump follower, and that's part of their proprietary design for InPol, and it's been loved by so many for so long.
Yeah.
But this is the biggest. Sorry, not to get off topic. The pump follower is it's part of the circuit for InPol. So for each channel, they're using a dozen output devices in order to get the desired wattage they want out of this amplifier, and they're sharing that pump follower across each of those dozen circuits. But sorry, rather the dozen devices they're using per channel to do the output section. But I mean, it's huge. Kevin and I were talking before we started the video. We've never seen them use a choke this big for the InPol circuit. It's very, very impressive.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm just going to have to get Gaetano back up here with somebody that can translate for us to go through this. We'll have to do a follow-up video on this. So this is for the spring. Indeed, what you're listening to with this product is you are listening to the 12AX7, the ECC 803S, and it is a pentagram, is what they call it. I mean, the InPol circuit takes that small picture and just makes it a big picture. So you are indeed listening to the tube. But it's an enlarged picture of the tube, and you have the benefits of a lower output impedance that you would get from a solid state amp, and you have all the glory of a Class A amp. But it's more than that, because it's all the magic, and I'm just telling you, I've never heard anything like it. Now, back here, boom, boom, boom. This is another probably 40 pounds each, plus the cases that they put it in, and it feels like it's potted. Those are the power transformers, correct?
Yes, those are the power supply transformers.
Yeah.
And what's really special about those is they could have put all of those windings in those cases to do the entire amp, but they didn't do that. That's just for the power supply. And they put them in those cases. A lot of times you'll see manufacturers where they put the epoxy pot of transformer inside of a case like that. And they'll put it in a metal box, since it's essentially like a Faraday cage, and it keeps any type of noise from getting in. What they're doing in this scenario is they're trying to get any noise from getting back out. They don't want that. They don't want that noise from getting back out into the like where we mentioned the preamp toroidal transformers for all the filaments and the anode voltage and that stuff. It's completely separated because now that power supply is just completely isolated off in the back of the amp.
Right.
It's really impressive what they've done.
Right. And then in the back, and we'll show pictures of that. I mean, they're using real Neutrik and the top line, the most expensive WBT connectors in the back. I mean, it's sumptuous, I guess, right, Josh? I mean, it's really.
Yeah, when you look in this product, you can tell they did not skimp anywhere. They used the best stuff. And another thing, even beyond the parts and things they're using, is that just the passion that this company has had for decades and decades. They've been doing this.
Yeah.
When you buy a product like this, I mean, this is what these guys do all day, day in and day out, year after year, year after year, and you're buying their knowledge and what they've put into these products. It's very special.
And it's not a high volume manufacturer. This isn't a company where there's just stacks of these laying about. It's not like that. It took us months. It took us a while to get one, and then it took us another while to get a second one. This is only the second one. That's all there is right now, right? Because they do, and I'm going to talk about this in the video I've already talked about. I mean, they do everything in-house. They cut the metal. They paint the metal. They have a wood shop. The capacitors and transformers, everything is made about 100 kilometers, either in-house. All the metal work is, well, we'll show them some stuff. Hey, look, Josh, I appreciate you coming on board. I mean, you're such a bro. I could not be happier to have you on our team, and I know that our clients enjoy it because when people call for help, usually they get like some dude that doesn't know anything. And we have an engineering class guy that helps people out, and you don't get that everywhere. So I want to thank you. Here, I'll get my picture up here. Let me reverse this. I want to say thank you very much. All right, Josh?
Yeah, it's an honor to get to do it, and thank you so much for having me,
Whoop,
Kevin.
whoop,
Really
whoop.
appreciate it.
Thank you, dude. Bye.
See you. Bye.
I want to thank Josh for going through that with us. Now, I forgot to mention a few things, right? It's got an amazing remote control. We'll show you a picture of it. You can raise and lower the volume, change inputs, all of those fun things, of course. It has 3 sets of single-ended inputs, 3 sets of balanced inputs. And this is a true balanced design, which I think you should have gathered at this point. Yes, it is very, very heavy, but it comes in a crate and it is palletized to you. And then once you set this up in your home, you're never going to want to move it anyway. I mean, it's that amazing. It's that way at my house now with my adrenalines. I'm going to tell you a secret, though. I might add another pair of adrenalines. Somebody told me I should because the Grand Utopias love that. They love to be bi-wired. It sounds so good now. I can't imagine it being better, but maybe I'm going to do it. What do you guys think? So look, go to your local Pathos dealer. If they don't have it, find out why. If not, reach out to us and we can make sure that we get you taken care of. This is a product. All Pathos products are something that I can see why the people that own it, they become so inspired. You can't, it's like an Alfa Romeo or Ferrari. You cannot understand it until you see one and experience one in person. Thanks.